Yo, what's going on everybody? Today's video is going to be on a Zunimassa starter build for Season 6, patch 2.4.1. Now this build is assuming that you used your Hadrig's gift to get the 6-piece Zuni, and if you're not familiar with how the Hadrig's gift works, I'd recommend that you click the bottom left icon there entitled Hadrig's gift. That will take you to about a 3-minute or so video explaining how it works and how it's the fastest way to get your first 6-piece set bonus in Season 6. So first up, let's go over what the Zunimassa's Haunt set does. The 2 set reads, your fetish army lasts until they die, and the cooldown of your fetish army is reduced by 80%. The 4 set, you and your pets take 3% less damage for every fetish you have alive. And then the 6 set bonus, enemies hit by your mana spenders take 1500% increased damage from your pets for 8 seconds. In my opinion, there are only 4 things that are mandatory to a Zuni starter build, and everything else is up to personal preference. The first being a mana spender to proc your 6-piece Zuni to then buff your pets. In this build, I'm running Zombie Piranhas and Haunt Poison Spirit, which we'll go over more in depth here in just a minute. But again, you can run any mana spender that you see fit and whichever one you like the best. Number 2 is Fetish Army. Not only is it a lot of your damage, but you also take 3% reduced damage per fetish you have active. Number 3 is the Fetish passive Fetish Sycophants. You can have up to 15 extra fetishes from the passive, and again, a ton of damage and 3% reduced damage per fetish. Next up, we need a spammable ability to proc our Fetish Sycophants, and in this build, I'm currently running Haunt for this purpose. It only costs 50 mana, so if your build is set up properly, you should have no issues spamming this. Another option would be any of the primary skills for the Witch Doctor, my favorite being Reign of Toads. Now keep in mind this gameplay was done with 0 Paragon levels, low level gems, and just crafted rares along with the 6-piece Zuni set, and it absolutely annihilates Torment 6. You could probably even run Torment 7, but I wouldn't recommend that until you have some better items. Next up, let's take a look at the ability choices. I'm currently running Haunt Poison Spirit. This is going to serve 3 purposes. First, it's a mana spender, so it's going to proc your 6-piece Zuni. You're going to be able to spam this the majority of the time, proccing your Fetish Sycophants passive, and then haunted enemies take 20% more damage from all sources. Next, Fetish Army Legion of Daggers. This is the rune that gives you 8 dagger-wielding fetishes, which is the most you can get out of a Fetish Army rune. And again, the more fetishes, the better, more damage, and less damage taken. Piranhas, Zombie Piranhas. Now the reason for this rune is because the Zombie Piranhas will actually jump out of the pool of Piranhas, making it the largest area of effect to proc your 6-piece Zuni out of any Piranha's ability. On top of that, it's on an 8-second cooldown, so with Grave Injustice, you can pretty much cast this whenever you need to, and then affected enemies will also take 15% increased damage. Now you can try to run Paranado in this slot if you want, but keep in mind that it is on a 16-second cooldown, so it will be down from time to time. I'd recommend, if you're going to do that, to have another dedicated mana spender to make sure that you can always proc your 6-piece Zuni with an area of effect of some sort. Another option potentially would be to run Paranado in this slot, and then switch Haunt Poison Spirit to Haunt Resentful Spirits, which releases 2 spirits per cast. Spirit Walk Severance. You gain an additional 100% movement speed with this rune, and in my opinion it's the best setup, especially for a starter build, because with Grave Injustice, every time you kill a pack of mobs, you're going to get Spirit Walk back off a cooldown to then jet off to the next pack. Another option would be Jaunt for the 3 seconds of Spirit Walk. Gargantuan Humongoid. This deals 585% of your weapon damage as cold and also cleaves enemies in an area of effect. Even without the Short Man's Finger, this does a ridiculous amount of damage early on. Soul Harvest Languish. This is going to stack up to 5 times. Each stack will give you 3% intelligence, 10% armor, and then also whenever you harvest enemies, you're going to reduce their movement speed by 80% for 5 seconds. Next we have the passives. Grave Injustice. You gain 1% of your maximum life and mana and reduce the cooldown of all of your skills by 1 second when an enemy dies within 20 yards. This effect is increased by your gold pickup radius. So getting mana back from this is going to help you sustain your Poisoned Spirit Haunt spam. It's going to sustain your life, and then most importantly, it's going to reduce your cooldowns. Next up, Confidence Ritual. You deal 25% additional damage to enemies within 20 yards. This build is extremely tanky. You should have no issues standing within 20 yards pretty much all the time. You could also potentially run Pierce the Veil in this slot, but if you're going to do that, I would recommend switching out Haunt Poison Spirit for a primary skill that costs 0 mana. Next, Gruesome Feast. When you're healed by a health globe, gain 10% of your maximum mana and 10% intelligence for 15 seconds. The intelligence bonus stacks up to 5 times. So you're going to get a gigantic damage increase per health globe. You're also going to get all resist per health globe picked up. And then you're going to get mana back when you pick up a health globe to make sure you're able to continue to spam Haunt. And then again, the Fetish Sycophant's passive. When you hit an enemy with your spells, you have up to a 15% chance to summon a dagger-wielding fetish to fight by your side for 60 seconds. With this setup, you should see 15 fetishes from this passive the majority of the time. If you want to run an area of effect mana spender besides Piranhas, I would recommend Acid Cloud, Acid Rain for the 24-yard radius. Next up, let's talk about some strong items to look out for early on in the season. Mask of Jerem. Increase your pet damage by up to 100%. Pretty self-explanatory, just a huge damage increase for your pets. And then we have Tasker and Theo. Increase the attack speed of your pets by up to 50%. Again, just a really nice damage increase there. Carnival. The 5 fetishes closest to you shoot a powerful poison dart whenever you do. So obviously if you're going to run this and you get this early on, it is extremely powerful, but you're going to have to swap out Haunt to poison dart so that your fetishes shoot darts when you do. Belt of Transcendence. Summon a Fetish Sycophant when you hit with a mana spender. So if you get this belt to drop, you're able to drop the Fetish Sycophant's passive because you'll get your fetishes out of this belt instead whenever you hit with your mana spenders, and you're able to run another damage passive or another damage reduction passive or even Spirit Vessel. Star Metal Kukri. Reduce the cooldown of Fetish Army and Big Bad Voodoo by 1 second each time your fetishes deal damage. Now obviously if you get this to drop, you're going to want to put Big Bad Voodoo Slam Dance onto your skill bar, probably in place of Soul Harvest Languish. Then we have the Short Man's Finger and Tall Man's Finger. So the Short Man's Finger is going to give you 3 smaller, more powerful Gargantuans, and then the Tall Man's Finger is going to give you a large zombie dog. Then if you're going to run the Tall Man's Finger, you need to put zombie dogs on your bar somewhere. More than likely, the Burning Dogs rune is going to be the best for some more area of effect clear. Now there are plenty of other really strong items to look out for early on in the season. These are just the best ones, in my opinion, for a Zuni pet build. Definitely look out for any ancient legendary weapon as soon as possible. As far as stat priorities, always look out for sockets on jewelry, crit chance, crit damage for your pets. Attack speed actually increases the damage of your pets for Witch Doctor opposed to increasing their attack speed. Intelligence, and then Fetish Army percentage damage actually increases the damage of all of your fetishes, including the Fetish Sycophants now. So anyways guys, that'll about wrap up the video. Hope you enjoy it, and I hope it'll help some of you guys starting out in Season 6. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.